What's up, guys? If I could give you one way to consistently have the same amount of money and dial in your production so that you don't have to worry about that next transaction and you can take your business from transactional to relational, would you be interested? I know I would. This one hack absolutely changed my business. It has nothing to do with leads, has nothing to do with sphere generation. So stay tuned and we'll dive in. What's up, everybody? Coach Kane here with the Realtor Playbook, helping real estate agents win every single day at the game of real estate. And I'm super excited about this topic, as this is something that was brought to me through the Brian Buffini program that completely changed my business, and I wouldn't have ever thought it would. So I'm excited to dial that in. But first, please throw me a like. If you have a question, please subscribe. If you would like to have my entire, PDF about how I did this and the steps it will take to do it, please comment below. I will absolutely get that to you. But this is something that's super exciting. So subscribe to my channel. I always bring content like this, based on mindset, winning the game of real estate, whatever it can be. So please give me a subscribe, and I look forward to, helping you build however you need to build and helping fill in those gaps that maybe your brokerage isn't doing at this time. Okay, so as a young agent, I started out and I was like, sweet, you close that first transaction, you're like, whoa, I just made $10,000 in, one day. The honest truth is it was more than one day. You had to do the lead generation. You had to sign the documents. You had to get the client under contract. You had to sell the home. And then you had to get through the contract process, inspection, appraisal, due diligence, all of that stuff. And it's truly a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it feels like, whoa, I just worked for 30 minutes at the closing table and got a $10,000 check. That's cool. I don't know about you, but that was not my life prior to being a real estate agent. The first check I got as a real estate agent was the biggest check that I had ever gotten in my entire life. So with that said, I was like, okay, cool. Then it was on to the next deal, trying to get the next deal. And I had to pay back some of my, fees and dues and all of that stuff and make sure I was, staying out of debt. So I did that. And by the time I paid Uncle Sam and paid for my fees and all that, it wasn't that big of a check after all. But it was still pretty cool feeling to walk into the bank and cash a $10,000 check. Now the checks have gotten a lot bigger, which is awesome. But then I was on to the next transaction. And, if I didn't get a transaction for 2 or 3 or 4 months, that all of a sudden that $10,000 check became pretty small, right? And so I had to get that next transaction. I had to go find it. And when you have a check for 10 grand, you're like, oh, sweet. Like I can go buy something cool. I can buy that thing that I've always wanted or whatever. Come to find out, it's not really like that, because by the time that $10,000 check actually hits your personal checking account that you can spend money on, it's not that big. So then, you go on to the next deal and, maybe that next check's $15,000. You're like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Same thing happens, right? And then the next deal. And so I focus a lot on helping my agents start working on the next transaction before you go under contract on the current transaction, and really continuing to prospect and market. And you guys know all of that, all you real estate agents out there. It's so hard because you get in a transaction, maybe you have 2 or 3 stacked up under contract. You're so focused on those, and then that last one closes and you're like, oh, better start again. So this was something that was huge for me, but it was all based on my money, right? And that's the financial hack that I'm going to tell you about right now. And so what I do is I put all of my money that I get from a commission check, whether I make $100,000 in a month or $2,000 in a month, I put all of that money into a checking account. I take, a certain percentage. I take 50% of my checks and put it into a savings account. I'm kind of freaked out about taxes, so I want to make sure I have the reserves. Obviously, I know that's a huge number, and at the end of the year, after I pay my taxes, then that becomes my savings account that kind of is unrealized, right? You're like, okay, don't touch this, and that's my savings account, and then we'll go from there. So as we progress, I was like, okay, we can do this. And if you have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in that account, you can start paying yourself a salary, right? So say you have a check, say you have $30,000 worth of checks, for 1 month. Great month, right? You're newer in real estate. That's awesome. You put $30,000 into that account. Say you're taking 33% out. So you take you leave 20,000 in the checking, put 10,000 in your savings. Don't touch that. A lot of new agents really get caught off guard when that tax man comes and it's like, oh yeah, you have to pay Social Security, you have to pay this, you have to pay that. So make sure you're keeping that untouchable, don't touch it, and then you're good. Now you have $20,000. From that $20,000, you pay yourself on the first of every month, $5,000 or whatever you need to make it work. Start out really low, right? I started at, I think $5,000 was my number. Once I got 20,000 in there, which is the hard part, I understand, but once you get that in there in that checking account, $5,000 a month. Don't touch anything else. You can maybe pay some of your business expenses over here. I would try and limit that as much as possible. Okay, $5,000 your personal savings. Now you're contributing to your family, right? You're contributing that amount. You can, your spouse brings their money in or whatever. Maybe you're single, $5,000 a month, your budget. Okay, if it has to be seven, it has to be seven, but you better start making more money because, if you have $20,000, you don't even have 3 months at $7,000, right? So, and then as you progress, you can go up. As I progress, my wife no longer works. She stays home with the kids. So now it's $10,000 a month that I take from my business checking to my personal. And okay, then it adds up, right? As we move forward, our business expenses might get bigger, but there's always that money in there. It's not just like put it in this, put it in that, see what happens, right? And I know there's more dialed in systems. This book Profit First that I'm about to read is very different, a 5-account system. But if you can get to that point where you have a lump sum and you can actually take, a portion of that and not all of it and put it towards your personal expenses and then pay your personal expenses from your personal account, you can get there. This absolutely changed my life. It was hard at first to keep that nest egg, but now I'm consistently at 6 to 7 to 8 months of, money in there. And so, and as you see, you're like, well, where do you save your money? Well, my savings is over there and the 50% I pull out, right? And so, and then if I take 5,000 to my personal and we don't use it all that month, then maybe 1,000, you roll that right into your personal savings account. There's other ways to do it, but that's absolutely the trend that absolutely changed my world in real estate. And what that did for me was understand that, okay, if I didn't, make a commission check this month, it's okay because I have that reserve. Granted, I want to close a check every single month, but if I don't, I don't, but I still have that there. I didn't go blow it on whatever I blew it on. So that was huge. And that allowed me to take it from, okay, I have to close this deal. I have to do everything I can to get this person to buy a house and be excited to buy a house, to how can I serve you as the client, right? If I can serve you as a client and I can build that relationship, you might not sell that house this month, but it's okay because I know I can pay my bills because I have that reserve. And so then it became relational. And then I got better at building relationships, and those relationships have absolutely exploded my business. But it's not because of any lead generation strategy. It's not because of anything. It's because I was financially stable over here to make sure that I could serve those clients to the best of my ability. And, it's always our duty as agents to serve our clients, but you and I know when you're like, oh man, funds are getting light. I got to get this deal. This is the closest thing I have to a deal. You're going to act a little bit differently. Still in their best interest, but you want to make sure that that deal gets done so that you can put food on your table. It's natural instincts. It's what happens. So if you're interested in learning more about this or talking about how we can get it started, because the hardest part is getting that lump sum up front, we get it started. We are extra frugal on the front end. We build that base and it'll change your life forever. So thanks for tuning in. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. If you'd like to talk more about partnering with me, check out reagentwolfpack.com. All kinds of stuff about what we offer at the Wolfpack there. But as always, thanks so much for tuning in, and go get a W today in the real estate game. Bye-bye.